Hi, I'm Josh.
And I'm Derek. We're both experienced founders and CEOs of B2B SaaS companies, and now we're your hosts.
In today's world, getting accurate information about B2B SaaS products is tough. User review sites are manipulated, and research reports are often wildly inaccurate or paid for. That's why we're here, to bring you information that no one else does.
We go straight to the software companies themselves to break down their products, show you a demo, and give you our honest opinions. Whether you're a software buyer, investor, or user, this podcast is for you.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Talk SaaSy to Me. Today, we've got founder and CEO Jamie of MindCloud. Really excited to dive in. Jamie, why don't we go ahead and get started? So tell us what MindCloud is and why you're the guy to build it and what problem you're solving.
Awesome. Okay, so MindCloud is a next generation integration platform built from the ground up with AI in the last 3 years. Every piece of our tech stack, from building the connectors to how we schedule jobs to building out workflows, was built with how to make it the easiest and fastest for customers to be able to leverage this incredible technology of automations and integrations, but for the non-tech person. So our most of our customers are CEOs, founders, people that want to scale their business, but they don't know how to utilize the technology to do so. And common integration platforms are too complex. They're just a pain in the butt. Zapier breaks all the time and is, too troublesome for CEOs and business owners to try to manage themselves. And then the Celigos and the MuleSofts are too expensive or too complex to, run all on their own. And we're trying to solve that by making it extremely simple to do your integrations that are your mission critical things for your business so that you can scale and grow and not have to worry about copy and paste, manual data entry, and all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. And then maybe for the audience, tell us a little bit more. I mean, obviously you mentioned some of your competitors, maybe on the small end, the Zapiers, and then the bigger ends, the Celigos. But tell us a little bit more about some of the common platforms you're working with from an integration perspective.
Sure. So common, all your popular ERPs and CRMs from NetSuite, Salesforce, HubSpot. In the landscape world, it's Aspire, ServiceTitan. On your e-commerce, it's all the marketplaces, Amazon, eBay, Walmart. We're partners with Rhythm, so it's Channel Advisor, Commerce Hub, Disco. Basically, anyone who has an API or a database that needs to have the data talk to each other, that's who our customer is. Obviously, we have a lot of more common, the more popular they are, but to add a new connector to our platform and have that available takes about an hour in comparison to what it used to take before AI. It might take weeks or months to add a new platform or a new ERP to our connection marketplace. So it's really anybody and anyone. As long as there's an API or a database, we can plug into it and add that to our integrations.
Awesome. And you mentioned before AI. So are you saying that you guys utilize AI to speed up the new connection process? Is that what you're alluding to?
Well, okay. So 3 years ago, we started. Everything is just JavaScript code with database backend. Back before I worked in MindCloud, I did software integrations, database integrations for the last 20 years. And any way you can, you're trying to connect the data. So when I started MindCloud with my co-founders, the concept was, how do we make this simple and automated? But everything's in code. So while we're bootstrapped, it's building the integrations from an API, spin up a server, pull data, push it out to the other side. To add a connector to our repertoire would take a month, maybe 2 months to have a new, like Salesforce. When we first added Salesforce to our integrations, it was a couple months to build that. Now with AI, I just did a demo last week. A customer wanted a brand new platform we've never heard of. It's called Cantata. And in the demo, within 30 minutes, I was able to ingest the API docs for Cantata, have it build the connector, set up the authentication, and have the customer enter their credentials in the same demo. So within 30 minutes, we actually added a brand new connector, and we're able to sell that customer the things that they needed on our platform. So it's amazingly different how AI has sped up the connector development process to building workflows, every single piece of the whole tech stack.
That's awesome. That's really wonderful. So maybe diving a little bit deeper on some of what you just said, or actually, let me take a step back. I want to take a step back for the audience. And my experience, which maybe is unique to my businesses or customers that I've worked with in the past, is maybe like the Zapiers of the world were for some very simple things, very simple one workflow, one way kind of tasks, right? And then you mentioned the Sligos and the MuleSofts are for some pretty heavy integrations of things like a Salesforce to a NetSuite and back. So when you mentioned that maybe a CEO, wants to do this themselves, help us understand what that looks like. Because when I was CEO, if I could do it myself and click some buttons, that was great. But there could be also times on a more complex integration where I need services. So when you guys think about your business or describe it, how much of the experience for a customer is do it yourself and or just software, right? Same thing versus MindCloud doing some services as part of that, whether it's upfront implementation or ongoing.
Yeah, it's an awesome question, and I think about this every day, every night. How do we move from service to product? And in the beginning, everything is build it from scratch, one off. 3 years later, we have repeatable patterns. We've got a whole platform. We have low code, no code, drag and drop to build your own workflows. But it's all been to make our staff able to build the jobs faster for our customers. We've never had it where here's a login to MindCloud, go build your own Zap or connector or workflow. So up until now, it's been that white glove service. A CEO will write into us and say, I want to connect Salesforce to my accounting platform, and this is what I want it to do. They don't know what fields, they don't know what triggers, they don't know what schedule, they don't know technically how they want to do it. They just know I need to get this invoice to show up over there. So we'll kind of do a consulting requirement scope gathering, use our expertise in integration space to say this is how it should go. And then we'll sign off on the annual data flow. It's a flat annual fee. There's no upfront costs. You don't pay for consulting. You don't pay for designing or building the workflow. You just pay a flat annual fee per what the thing is. So if it's synchronizing invoices, it's a flat annual fee. A CEO can just say, this is what I want. We'll build it for them and maintain it for them. So when Salesforce releases their new API version and sunsets some endpoint, they don't have to deal with that. So we'll manage and keep all of the integrations live and running. So the CEO just knows that everything is running smoothly. He can see on his dashboard that the invoices are showing up where they're supposed to go. Moving to present time, we have now a low-code, no-code platform that customers are now starting to just sign up to use on their own, where they don't pay us to build workflows anymore. And later this month, we're going to be launching our full usage-based model, where people will be able to leverage the same tool that we've used to build customer workflows, where they'll be able to use the same AI tools to create the workflows and do all that. And more like a usage model where they can start for free. And then once they get up to a certain number of transactions, then they can, pay as you go model. So we have not yet entered that world fully, but I can definitely speak to the white glove full service model, which is what it's been up to this point.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Jamie. I think in my experience too, at certain types of businesses or at certain level of complexity or size of clients, they're really just looking to have the problem solved from an integration perspective. They're not looking to build an internal integrations team or buy a platform and have to learn new coding or something like that. And it's always this interesting mix, right, between each integration is likely a little bit different. The platforms are a little different. The requirements are a little different. And so you can't necessarily just walk out and buy a plug and play integration tool that just works without the flexibility to kind of make those lightweight adjustments to what's happening. And at the same time, you don't want to go out and buy a platform to kind of run a platform as a service and build a whole team around it. So I guess, how do you see that? And are you planning to sort of stay in that same market, or as you build out these, self-service type of tools, do you plan to move into different types of companies?
Yeah, I don't know fully how it's going to go, but I can tell you that up until now, 90% of our customers were like you described. They don't want to build it. They don't want to even know how it works. They just want to know that it works and that the orders are flowing, the invoices are flowing, and they don't have to clear errors. The 20%, the people that are more tech savvy, the ones who are already using Celigos or MuleSoft, and they want a better tool or something that doesn't have the cookie cutter kind of components that the other platforms do. We're servicing those as well, where we'll be able to build it for them, but then turn over the keys. And every workflow has versioning built in. So we can publish a snapshot of this is a user accepted workflow. And then that can get turned over to the CIO or the director of IT, who then can tweak, adjust, manage it themselves without having to depend every time they want to make a small adjustment to put in a service ticket with us. So we do support both of those models, and then we'll be moving into the full here are the keys. Go ahead and build it. Here's our docs, and we'll support you. But I really do feel like that's going to be a totally different audience. You're going to have your more developers, your more citizen developers. And it's different market size too. Our average customer right now that uses our services is about 5 million to 500 million in revenue. And above that, they maybe don't need us because they've already got 20 or 30 integration staff. They've already got all the platforms, and, maybe they don't need our service. But then, and below that, to do that white glove level service, maybe it's too costly to pay, $5,000 a year or something to have all your data flows managed. So I'm hoping that with this low code tool that doesn't require that white glove service, we'll be able to capture the lower end of the market all the way down to the single individual users who want to do zaps better and not have them constantly break, or be able to use AI to build workflows. Or, the thing with Zapier and these other platforms, you only have what people have built. It's not like you have a white canvas to build anything you want. So we want to give the flexibility to people all the way down to that level where, if it's on a company's API documentation, you should be able to build a workflow with that. You shouldn't be dependent on someone who built, an app for Zapier with 5 actions. You shouldn't be dependent on that. You should be able to just say, okay, good, authenticate. Now I got all these actions that are available from the API documentation, build your workflow, and then boom, it works. So we're hoping to get that level of use and ease all the way down to the end user.
Yeah, that's interesting. And, there's a lot of integration tools out there. And it sounds like in terms of the AI related components, that's a very new area in terms of doing that. And obviously an area where it feels like there's a lot of potential automation, like a good area for the application of AI. So how have you, you're sort of on the cutting edge of this. How have you experienced leveraging that to increase that time, that build time? And how realistic do you see it to be really for end clients to do that themselves over the course of the coming years?
Every month it gets better and better. We were using GPT 3.5, and then when GPT 4 and 4.0 came out, it was like a 10x increase in what we were able to do within a couple month time frame. So an example is you're trying to map Salesforce fields of opportunity to HubSpot deals. You can take the API and tell the AI, I want you to map these two objects, and all you have is the API docs. Before, it might take 10 seconds and it would be kind of sloppy. 2 months later with GPT 4.0, it was able to give almost a perfect mapping field by field, where that would have taken one of our staff maybe 10 or 15 minutes to set up all the mappings perfectly, where that piece of AI, just on that one step, sped up the whole workflow building by about 10 minutes. So I think it's going to get better and better. What I envision is in a sales call, you'll be able to be capturing the requirements and have on your screen the AI listening and capturing the data. What are the platforms? What are the endpoints? What are the common workflows? What design should be used? And actually have it build a scaffold of your workflow while you're talking to a client and have it build live for you. By the end of the call, authenticate, run a test, and then turn over your workflow. That's where I want it to be. I don't think it'll take more than a year or so to get there. We're already doing things that are close to that, like ingesting an API documentation and building a connector from scratch, which, we did that with Paycor. Paycor is a, payment processing software. It's a pretty complex API. It's got hundreds of endpoints. And we used our AI ingestion tool, which we built on our platform. And there's 150 endpoints now available in our workflow tool for Paycor, which we don't need 90 of them, but they're there, and it didn't take any time to build those. So I think it's just going to get better and better and better. The prompt screen, when you open up MindCloud, it's going to be something like a ChatGPT prompt of what are you trying to build today? And then just kind of walk you through, ask you questions until it has enough data to then put up the workflow and then get it running. So I'm very confident that it's going to get there the way technology is advancing.
It sounds like the product is almost triangulating maybe what a customer wants, if I'm hearing correctly. So there's one point of self-service for customers who want that. There's one point of the white glove service. And then there's this AI feature or prompt where it's like, okay, whether they're getting the white glove or the self-service, we can expedite our ability to service the customers. So to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, if that's what I heard right, but it sounds like there's a spectrum there, and part of your vision or your strategy is to meet the client where they are. So whether they're 5 or 500 million in revenue, they've got some options of how to work and scale with you guys. Is that a fair summarization?
Yeah, 100%. And while we've been focused on that 5 to 500 million range, that's only because we were kind of stuck in we have to build it ourselves. It costs a certain amount to build and maintain it. But as we're implementing more and more AI tools to build the workflows, build the connectors, our costs come down. Just in the last year, we were able to drop our prices and start to capture an even smaller, a lower market just by same service, but it's faster for us to deliver. When it used to take a month to build a workflow, it went down to 2 weeks about a year ago. And then now within the last month or so, it's now down to about a day to build a workflow for a customer.
Gotcha. Very cool. It's interesting. I feel as if before AI, things flip-flop, but buyers of software were more interested in buying versus building for a lot of different types of software. iPaaS tools, for sure. Obviously, managing that on your own can be a pain and very risky for the business for a number of reasons. How do you see things getting better or worse for the iPaaS vendors with the introduction of AI? Do you think there will be a flip-flop back to some companies trying to build it themselves, or do you think it's just that it makes the pre-built products such as yours that much stronger that now businesses won't even consider it, or will it be a mix? Just kind of for the audience, might be curious to see where you see the market going.
My observation is the guys that have been there for a while, the Boomies is kind of your iPaaS 1.0, your Celigos are kind of your iPaaS 2.0. The technology under the hood is decade or decades old. To add AI onto that type of platform, you're not going to get a holistic experience and benefit of AI when you're dealing with a platform that is not going to be rebuilt from the ground up. So a lot of the marketing things, you probably saw Boomi AI a year ago, this marketing video came out, which was awesome. But it doesn't exist yet. Or, things that look really cool, but it's going to be more of a embroidery around a platform that the core platform is not really changing. So I think that these, older iPaaSes are going to have trouble keeping up as more and more tools come out. It's going to be easier and easier for people to build their own integrations. But with the advance of AI, the thing that is not going to get replaced, at least for, maybe 5 years more, is normalizing private data to be accessible by AI. So you've got all these different silos of data, Salesforce, NetSuite, your spreadsheets, your databases. To have AI be able to interact with these things, all of the data has got to be standardized and normalized to be able to communicate on one platform or one common layer. So integration platforms such as MindCloud are just going to be more and more in demand as more companies realize that they want to take advantage of AI, because to connect to their database or to connect to APIs and to have all of their systems talking and utilizing AI, they're going to have to be integrated. They're going to have to be standardized. So we're right there in that position of making, if we can be the fastest and make it the easiest to wrap AI or to wrap APIs, to wrap databases, standardize and give a common way to communicate with AI, and make it accessible. I don't see why we can't ride the wave and be the tool that companies use to be able to stay cutting edge and take advantage of AI.
For sure. There's so it's interesting what you said. And, my perspective is similar to yours. And I also think the thing that makes iPaaS platforms even more valuable, especially more modern ones that can obviously do things we're talking about today. But I think that more and more best of breed software is going to be point solutions and less suites, right? I mean, these point solutions or best of breed solutions don't have to be necessarily within a suite, just given the rapid development of some software. So I think, when you look at a company's tech stack, and obviously this has been a trend, it's just the number of applications is going to grow. I actually saw a survey recently where that trend is becoming more and more accurate, where CFOs are looking at having a bigger stack, less scared of integrations than historical. Not to say that a suite doesn't make sense for certain types of companies or sizes, not to say that won't flip-flop, but with the advent of AI and a lot of these tools that are popping up or enhancing to best of breed, it makes sense to get the best tools, not necessarily the mediocre tools or the okay tools, just because it's consolidated. So I think, to your point, iPaaS will continue to be needed. The more applications you have, it's just the more risk that you have to manage. So leveraging a platform makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. The monolithic platform of decades ago there's no need for it when you got the best payment processor in this tiny little app that somebody spun out, or Stripe is the best thing for this, and you've got this other app for something else. That is the goal of MindCloud, is to make, no matter what app, no matter what SaaS product you're using, to be able to make it extremely easy to just plug them all in so they all act like one piece of software, and then give you a universal view of everything in one place. We do have plans in the future to support that even more, where to have almost a generic CRM or a generic ERP or something that is a universal that can pull the data and the pieces from any app and kind of just plug it in. So, imagine, you didn't have to depend on, Salesforce's, way they handle opportunities or proposals. You could just have your Proposify plugin and your, accounting piece plugged in here, and, just kind of build your own, but then be able to have your reporting and a place for everything to live. That's something that we're looking at in the future as well.
That makes sense, Jamie. And I think it's going to become more and more of a thing, right? Businesses are seeing that they have data, and how can I kind of get that data AI enabled, or allow AI to be able to access that data in all of its different silos across the business. So it sounds like that's very much a coming thing. And I wanted to ask you as well, like we talked about leveraging AI, which seems like a big part of MindCloud's kind of approach to everything. So we're diving a bit deep on that area, but it feels like building out APIs to create faster integrations from the start is one component, but then obviously integrations constantly need to be changed. They run into errors. There's data problems. So are you currently or planning to leverage some of those AI capabilities to also monitor the integrations as they go forward, or be able to, alert people to issues in them when they occur?
Yeah, we have some things are already built in, and a lot we want to add on to it. The pieces that we've already implemented are, how you get an API response that you can't quite understand, and some code, and you have to kind of look it up or search the error message, in Google to find out what it meant. So we already run every error that we get back from any of our integrations through ChatGPT on the way to sending an email to the customer. So if there's an error, we take the exact API error, run it through AI, put it into a human readable, simple, succinct error message, and then we give a link to where they need to click on to go to fix the error. So that kind of thing we already have in place, and very simple implementation with a few different layers of prompting to get you exactly what is a very helpful email to someone. But we want to embed it more into, like analyzing workflows as they're running, even before they are erroring, to detect things that are not optimum, to be able to, review and optimize things on the fly internally. We want to build those kind of processes inside of our operational deck as well.
So, Jamie, for the audience listening, I think one thing that might be helpful too is obviously we talked a lot about the features and the functionality. You've talked about your customer size, 5 to 500 million. And we've been talking around it too. Obviously, there's a lot of competition in the space, some 1.0 and 2.0 type products, as you described, versus your 3.0 product. Help the audience understand, help the audience validate for the audience kind of your guys' scale or size or stability as a company. You mentioned you've been around for 3 years. So maybe it's sharing how fast you've grown in terms of ARR or customer count or employee count, but something that kind of validates you guys too, so that they know, hey, this isn't just a company that has 3 customers.
Sure. So we started about 3 years ago with 0 customers, and working on the side while I was working another full-time job. Bootstrapped for the first year, just myself. Once I was making enough revenue to cover my full-time salary, switched over to do MindCloud full-time. Then once we got up to enough to cover another staff, hired our first developer. So first year was kind of part-time, full-time, full bootstrapped, handful of customers, struggling to figure out how I can get one person to pay on a subscription basis instead of just pay a couple $1,000s for a one-time integration. And I'm like, why is this so hard? So that first year was like really rough. Revenue was maybe 10 grand a month to 40 grand a month on the peaks, but that was like the first year. By the second year, it was kind of dialing in on the market, found out, who are the right audiences, what are the pain points, starting to do a little marketing. We got our first seed investment, $500,000 from friends and family level. A good friend invested in the company. With that, we were able to add some of the key players that I wanted on the team. So then that second year, we went from that, that kind of not struggling, not really getting any recurring revenue, to by the end of the second year, we hit a 1 million ARR mark, which was a big milestone for the second year. So that was $1 million of recurring revenue. And it was maybe 50 customers range. Year three, we're into the third year now. We hit 1.7 million ARR already. We have 130 customers now, and we've grown to 25 full-time staff. So that was all in the last 3 years. Now every customer is on a subscription. There's no more one-time fees, when the first year was only one-time fees. So now we've got that dialed in. So everybody just pays an annual flat per data flow fee. There's no upfront costs. There's no development fees. I don't like one-time fees. I mean, this is, let's talk SaaSy here for a minute. There's like, who wants one-time fees? Somebody's like, I'll pay you $10,000 to build this thing. And if it's not recurring, I don't want it. We need to have like recurring revenue model. So that was kind of the biggest shift from year one to year three. And we're going for to get to 3 million ARR by the end of this year. That's the immediate goal. We're about to launch our product, which doesn't require the white glove service. It's going to be entirely separate. We're not going to drop everything that's been successful that got us here. But I believe that that's going to take off really fast and help to increase that ARR to the next level.
Awesome. That's very cool. Are we, we're not ready for the demo, but are we going to see any of that today?
Yeah. Let's do it. I mean, whenever you're ready.
Peek. Maybe a couple more questions. So just for the audience, especially as they're considering, iPaaS solutions and whatnot, help them understand. You already mentioned something around one-time versus annual costs, and a lot of people don't understand, hey, this stuff needs maintenance and attention ongoing, which is why it's an annual cost. Hopefully everyone understands that at this point. But tell us a little bit about timelines. So, let's say I want to integrate NetSuite and Salesforce, a pretty common integration. People can just think of that as like CRM, ERP type stuff. But help us understand, like, what are the timelines for some of those? I know it depends. But any way you can kind of bookend that and would be helpful for people to understand how when they work with you, what to expect.
For sure. So the average project takes 2 weeks to build from start to finish. So that might be 5 to 10 data flows. That includes building it in MindCloud, which I'll show you the platform. That includes user acceptance testing and go live. So that's kind of the average start to finish once we're working on a project is about 2 weeks from start to finish. To get on our calendar, depending on, which quarter we're in, could be, a couple of weeks to get started. So we tell customers that for a regular size project is 4 to 6 weeks from start to finish to get, on the calendar, to build it and to get through testing. But the reality is, we've gotten it down to the point where if it is a connector that we've already built, like Salesforce or NetSuite, and if it's a common flow, something that we're already familiar with, it is now a day to build the workflow and to have that turned over to the customer. even if it's a new one, once we get familiar with that API and understand how things work, like this one I was mentioning to you, Cantata. This was this complex API that we never saw before. To get those flows done is 1 to 2 days per flow to build and test and get that turned over to the customers. So faster and faster, and hopefully eventually down to an hour or less. And that's for custom ones. If it's reusable, if it's a template, there's no time. But as Derek brought up, pretty much everybody's going to want some tweak, some slight difference. They don't want to map it the same way. But we do have that ability to just duplicate a workflow, use like a recipe, and just have that pop up for the customer and use that out of the box. And if that's something the customer needs, then there's no time involved. It's just start using it and see if anything needs to be adjusted. But to answer your point there, you need to have somebody maintaining these things. The reason why people have headaches with Zapier, the reason why we get a lot of CEOs who did try to use Zapier or Make and then switch over to MindCloud, is because something changes on how you authenticate. The flow didn't quite work because of an edge case that they didn't think of, and then it just keeps breaking. A new data type showed up that was bigger than the field that is on the other side. All the different possible million different scenarios can come up, and they create a headache. And one tiny white space at the end of a field could result in months of somebody not being able to get their integration running, and then you find out that there's a space at the end of their API key or something like that. But to have somebody who is an expert and who knows how to do this, and even if they're not having us do it as a white glove service, just to have us as a support team, it makes it so you're not on your own. With Zapier or one of these other products, you're kind of just on your own, and you have to be an expert and you have to figure it out. And it's not there yet. It's too much of a pain for the customers who have switched over to us. So we want to be that pain relief and eliminate that integration headache for our customers.
All right. Well, I think we're almost ready to jump into the demo. Is there anything we didn't ask that we should have asked, or anything you want to share before we jump in?
No, I think we've been pretty thorough.
Okay.
I mean,
good.
I love talking about this stuff. This is my passion, to use technology to speed up work. I've used automations my entire professional career, from macros and little things and formulas in Excel to anything that I could do to get out of doing tedious data entry or manual tasks that are repetitive. So that whole purpose is why MindCloud was started, to make that. So, focus on the more important things. And that's also the thing we tell our customers. Yeah, you could build it yourself. Yeah, you could have a team build integrations and connect things yourself for your company, but it takes time and resources. And do you want to have your resources spent on building integrations and managing integrations, or do you want to have your time spent on your company's product? And one for one, obviously, they always say we should focus our resources on the product. So, yeah, that's mainly the reason why customers go to us. They don't want to deal with it, and we'll handle it, and it's going to cost them less to use us than to have someone handle it manually or build it themselves.
Awesome. Well said. Very well said. All right. You want to go ahead, share your screen, give us a quick sneak peek, and let everyone see?
Okay. So here's a quick demo of the MindCloud Workflow Builder. This is what our team uses to build workflows for our customers. And this is also what customers who want to use MindCloud and build it themselves or manage it themselves, this is what they would see. So here's a workflow that was built for one of our customers. This is taking data from a saved search in NetSuite, and it is updating the listings on BigCommerce. So here you can see up at the top, how often do you want this integration to run? So that's your schedule up at the top. You can schedule by intervals or fixed times. You can use AI to schedule it for you. You can say, run every Thursday at 1:59, and then it'll update right there. So now we can move on to get saved search. So authenticate your NetSuite account. Then you've got access to anything in NetSuite. An important point with NetSuite, when we connect to a NetSuite account, we sync all the custom fields, custom records, as well as all the standard ones. So everything that is being used inside MindCloud is a direct cached replica of what you have in NetSuite. So we can build custom searches, save searches, query your data, update your data directly from MindCloud without having to log into and edit anything inside NetSuite. So this one is pulling right here. You can see this is a saved search. And here's the output. Okay, so each step, it's built linearly from the top down. And we chose this instead of a graph model for simplicity. But from the top down, anything that we could do in code, we can now do in this low code, no code environment. So the next step is a transform step. So we're here, we're going to filter it. And every step you can see the output. So, the first step, getting the saved search, you can see the output live. And also important is every step you can grab the curl and go ahead and run it in Postman if you wanted to. It's extremely transparent. The end user should be able to know exactly what's happening without any black box. There's no hidden hooks like in some of the other platforms where you don't really know what's happening, but it's running some script somewhere. With our platform, everything is visible right in front of your eyes, and you can grab the code for that step and run it in some other platform if you wanted to see how the data looks raw. Okay, so now we got a transform step. So now it's filtered down to these two records. I want to show you a custom AI code block here. So up at the top right, you can see the inputs. So this has two record types. Let's say I want to write a custom mapping block that I don't know how to write code, and I want AI to write it for me. So let's say I want to concatenate the name field with the e-tail channel. So I'm just going to ask AI to help me with that. We'll say combine the name field with the e-tail channel with a hyphen and return this as SaaSy demo. Okay, so that happened within a half of a second. It wrote a piece of JavaScript for me in the most modern syntax of JavaScript. And you can see it right there. It created a SaaSy demo field. And then down here, you can see that field show up live. So it concatenated those fields with a hyphen. When I run that step, you can see now I have that new field that I just created with AI available for the rest of the workflow. You could do anything that you can do with code in this block. Let's say I want to add a random number and add that. We'll say add a random number and today's date as new fields. Let's let it decide what to name them. So it just created this function here with an exact formatted date. That, anybody who writes code can write that, but, if you don't have to, that took about 0.5 seconds to write. So it wrote this new transformation step. It created a random number generator for me. And there you go. I got a random number and today's date added. So that's the workflow builder. I'll skip the rest of the steps, but you can get the idea. Process through the whole thing. If you want to add another app, you just click on one of the lines, search the apps, choose what you want to connect to, and then authenticate it right there with your API key or whatever the authentication is. and then you instantly have access to all the API actions that are available. So you can see conditional logic here. So if something happens, then do this, otherwise do something else. There's iteration capability. So if you want to loop through all the items, then you could do something with each step. So here's an example of looping through all the NetSuite items. And let's say I want to send a Slack message with each one of those. So I'm going to authenticate. Right now, I got the OAuth 2 pop-up. I just authenticated Slack. Now I'm going to send a message to a user. So we'll say, here is the NetSuite product. And when you click in there, you have access to any of the data from one of the earlier steps. So I'm going to grab right there in the loop, and I'm going to send the name. And I'm going to send that to myself. Okay, good. So I'll just demo running one of those. So now in this demo, we've connected to NetSuite with a saved search. We've pulled data. We compared data to BigCommerce. Then we looped through the data and are sending a Slack message to myself, all inside here, along with writing custom code and custom mapping. And that was all done within a few minutes. Obviously, that's just a demo, but I'm going to show you some examples of some actual production workflows so you can get an idea of what a completed workflow looks like. Okay, so here's one that's synchronizing information between QuickBooks and another platform. So you can see here, grabbing data, looping through projects, creating customers if they don't exist, looking up items, creating them if they don't exist, and then going ahead and creating an estimate in QuickBooks. So all of that shows kind of like how the end product looks. The user will see logs, so they'll be able to see every time the job runs. Another cool feature is we have a timeline viewer, so you can drag through and see every step of the workflow and look at exactly what happened with that step. So if let's say, you can basically see historically what every step did and what the data looked like for that step. So for debugging, it makes it very fast to debug. So if there was an error on any one of these steps, I can click on that step, I could go in, I could look at exactly what the raw data was and go ahead and fix the error, and then go ahead, adjust it and rerun it. And there you go. Another really cool feature is every workflow has version control built in. So right here under publish, whenever you have a working version that you want to go live, you publish it, and you can see here, there's been 66 versions of this workflow. So every time there's an edit, there's a save, there's something's changed, we keep track of that with version control. At any time, you could roll back to any one of the earlier workflow versions, and you could name these whatever you want, and then use major, minor releases as well as patches, and then when we're working with customers, we'll build jobs and we'll publish a working version, and then they can tweak it and adjust it. And if they want to, they can always roll back to whatever was the last working version that we helped them publish. So that covers the workflow screen and the workflow builder screen. Before I end off, I just want to show you building an app from scratch. I mentioned earlier that we were able to build this Cantata app in 30 minutes on a live demo. So I just want to walk you through how we did that. So in MindCloud, when you create an app, the first thing is you add authentication. So that customer already had his client ID and secret, so I just patched it right in there. Simply add the authorization URL, the access token, and refresh token if there is one, and then any arguments that are needed for the endpoint. And then the part that I mentioned earlier, we have this import tool. we pasted that API documentation right into this AI ingestion tool, clicked import, and it was able to create all of these API endpoints, including all the arguments that are required for example, I'll show you like list stories. So you see how, on an API, you can have many different query parameters or many different options that are available. This one, you can see it's quite extensive. All of these were automatically generated through the API document. This alone, to set this up, might have taken a half an hour if we did it manually. But by using that AI ingestion tool, that took no time. And then our developers can just curate it, test it, make sure everything works exactly the way it's supposed to. So this supports all the standard API calls, gets, posts, puts, patches, and deletes. The current APIs that we have already in there are, you can see here, and any one of these would be available in the workflow tool. So when you're on the workflow screen and you want to add something new, all of those apps are instantly available right from here. So that's pretty much it. The direction we're going, this is an early release version of it. This is going to be an AI helper tool to build your workflow. So you're going to have prompts like, what would you like to build? You can say, I want to integrate Salesforce and NetSuite. So that's pretty general. So the AI takes this data and then prompts you, what specific type of data do you want to sync between Salesforce and NetSuite? So then it prompts you to ask more and more, provide more and more requirements until you've got a fully documented workflow, which then can be used to scaffold the actual workflow that I was showing before with AI. So this is just kind of a sneak peek of that. But we're in the works right now. And this will eventually lead to natural language conversation with our integration platform, where you can just talk back and forth with it until you've actually got your workflow built and tested. So that pretty much shows off most of the stuff I wanted to share here. Do you have any questions or want me to dive into anything else?
No, I think that's pretty interesting, Jamie, and really an amazing tool. It's not something that I've seen out there on the market at all right now. And so kind of being able to basically facilitate the building, the monitoring, all of it with that, and actually for real baked into the platform, not going to ChatGPT and pasting in something and coming back and sticking something else in, but like really baked into the platform natively from the start is very impressive. So thanks for showing that.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree. That was awesome. And Jamie, before we let you go, for the audience, how do we get a hold of you, or how do they get a hold of you if they'd like to see a demo or talk to the sales team or learn more?
Yeah, reach out to us at MindCloud.co. Right when you get to our landing page, you'll see a big Get Started button. That'll take you to a free consultation with our team. We're very responsive. We'll be on a call with you within a few minutes.
All right, Derek, we just saw MindCloud. You're the integration expert. You go first. What did you think?
I have to say the demo was very impressive. Like, it's very easy to talk AI and to talk about how those tools are actually helping to build and doing something. And there's a big difference between hiring some developers in the background and having them sort of use AI to help facilitate their build, and actually building a platform that has AI-enabled features from the ground up type of a build, and thinking with that in mind. And I haven't seen other platforms out there for integration builds. Maybe there are some. I haven't seen any yet that have really gone to market with tools really baked in and properly thought through of where they're beneficial and where they're not beneficial. And I have to say I was impressed with what they're building there, and it's definitely not gimmicky. I mean, that's baking the tools right into the real feature functions of the platform to get the job done, and not just as a fun sidebar or chat bot or something to kind of provide some nifty answers. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like it. I like it as a small business owner. There's a lot I can do on my own, but also rely on the white glove service. A lot I can do on my own with some of the new feature functionality rolling out, and then also rely on the white glove service. I like it as a big company because again, you've got that white glove service, and your integrations team would be happy to use a tool like that. It wouldn't feel necessarily threatened from a job security perspective. So I think it's really interesting. I'm with you. Their AI first approach there is definitely unique. I hope the audience isn't scared by their size. I mean, they're obviously on the smaller end compared to some of these bigger tools, but Jamie's got the background to pull this off, and they've had some good success on low budget. So that validates it right there for you. So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, very much so. I'm excited to see where they can take it. And, integrations is a tough market. You've got kind of pre-built connectors that are not inflexible, and they either work or they don't. And then you've got massive integration platform as a service products that take a long time to learn and a long time to build. And you have to be a really intelligent developer or have one on your team to actually do that. And it's really tough to find anything in the middle. And it looks like MindCloud's been able to sort of strike that line where they can really help smaller and mid-market customers actually go to bat with integrations quickly and get to market fast. So excited to see where they can take it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, that triangulated approach. They're going to meet you where you are, whether it's the self-service, the white glove, or using AI to speed up either of those two routes, if you will. Awesome. Well, it's been another awesome episode of Talk SaaSy to Me. Like us, love us, subscribe to us, and we'll be back next time.